All right, so I gotta share something with you guys. It happened once last week, but I didn't talk about it. I just whatever. But then it happened yesterday. Yesterday I didn't talk about it. But this morning, watching a YouTube news video, I seen a situation where the news station was doing like a report on a restaurant that got a bad grade, a health grade. The employees got in a scuffle with the news team, and towards the end of it, one of the employees was a lady. She was leaving out, and they were trying to speak to her. She was like, "Get away from me," blah blah blah. And then she proceeds to start cursing and carrying on and swinging at the news team. And I'm not giving her all the blame. I'm giving the news team the blame too, because they shouldn't be all up in that lady face like that. But that's not the point. So she's like, I have a fucking kid, and the kid is standing right there. It's a little kid. The kid's like 5 or 4 years old. She's doing all this cursing, trying to swing at him, just doing all kinds of stuff. And she's talking about, there's a kid. I got a kid. Now, I'm telling you this because the same thing happened to me yesterday. I stop at a shopping center. It's a 1-lane shopping center. So there's one way in, one way out. I'm leaving the store, but before I leave the store, I hear a few honks outside. Don't know what's going on, but not enough to be alarmed. So I come out, hop in the car, trying to leave out. I notice that there's a line leading out. Why is there a line leading out? So I give it a good minute. Nothing happens. I then honk my horn. I see the car in front of me, a red car, decides to move up a little bit. So I still see no movement of the SUV in front of the red car. So I'm sitting there, I'm giving it some more time. I honk my horn. I poke my head out. I'm saying, "What's going on?" The red car again moves up just a little bit. So I'm like, okay, it's not the red car. It has to be somebody in front of it. It's the car in front of them. So I see a guy comes out when I'm getting ready to get out. So I'm like, okay, so he was in a store. Regardless, number one, you shouldn't be blocking a one-way in, one-way out exit. Number two, if you're gonna do it, hop in and hop out. Don't let minutes go by. So he, I guess he talks to the passenger in the car. At this time, I didn't know if he was the driver or a passenger of the vehicle, because I can't see in the vehicle. So I honk my horn again. Dude looks directly at me. I look directly at him. He looks at me for a few seconds, and then the lady, I guess, tries to get his attention, or the person, because at this point I don't know if it's a lady or not, but the person in the vehicle gets his attention back, and then he goes back inside. So I'm sitting there for a few more seconds, no movement. So there is someone in the car, and they just don't care. So I then get out. I'm approaching the driver's side. I got my hands out. I'm like, man, what's going on? So I see that it's a lady. So then I put two to two together that he's the driver. Now, she could have easily moved the car too, but that's not where my mind went. My mind went directly back to the driver, because number one, you had to be the driver. Even when I honked my horn, you looked directly at me and had the nerve not to move your car, but go back in. So then I get out. I'm approaching the door. I open the door. I asked the dude, "Yo, what's going on, man? You blocking traffic. This is disrespectful, man. Come on. What you doing?" So the lady behind me saying, excuse me, hello. And I turn around, I'm like, yes. And she's like, that's my man. You ain't got to do all that. You ain't got to come out. You could have just asked me. And my point, my thing is, at this point, I'm just mad, because now you're trying to blame me for you blocking the road. So I look back at her, and then that's when I start moving my lips. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, that's your man. That's not the point. You were blocking traffic. You were blocking people. Oh, all you had to do is come up and ask. I didn't know. Number one, you did know because there's people behind you honking their horn. Not just me. There's people behind you. And you're in a one-lane shopping center. And you definitely have to know because your man looked right at me when I was honking my horn. So I'm telling her that's not the point. Y'all are ones that's being disrespectful because you blocking people from leaving out. And I do raise my voice. But I raised my voice at the dude before I raised my voice even at her. And I wasn't yelling, I just raised my voice. Because it was disrespectful, it was rude. You're blocking traffic, and then you have the nerve to sit there like everything all cool. So me and her discussing, she starts to curse, whatever. She's like, well, fuck it then, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and I see I just don't say anymore because it's a lady and I don't want to deal with her. I want to deal with the man because if the man get a pop off at an attitude to start swinging or something, I can defend myself. If it's a woman, it's going to be a whole nother story. But he's not even about that. So I didn't even take it that far. I didn't play all Mr. Tough Guy. I'm just saying, what's going on? Let's get this moving because y'all are blocking traffic. And I'm not saying it like that. Let's get this moving. But, I was like, man, let's go, man. Come on. So she do all that, few cursing. She don't direct it towards me, but she's cursing. So at the point of me raising my voice a little bit more, she's like, I got kids in the car, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, you got kids in the car, but you the one that's doing all the cursing. You doing all the cursing. You doing all the F-bombs, fuck it, and blah, 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 this and that. Number one, if you got kids in the car, you should be a perfect example. Number one, don't block traffic. Number two, don't blame other people for your mistakes. So I hop back in my car because I started seeing the dude turn around and come back out. So I leave it at that. I'm driving. They pull up because they're going to turn at the light. So their light is red, but I'm behind them. So I'm approaching. I'm in the other lane to go straight. So I'm starting to go straight because the light turned green. And that's when she had the nerve to be all out the window. It's a bigger lady. She all out the window saying, sticking the middle finger up, talking about F you effing faggot. All of this. But she didn't have that same energy. Now, yeah, she did say that she dropped the F-bombs, but she wasn't saying F me or anything like that. She was like, F it then. So, now, this is where I did go wrong. But I didn't go... I went wrong. It's a level of wrong. So, as she doing that and they're turning off, I told myself I got something for that. So I whipped around, yank, hit a U-turn. It was a legal U-turn. It wasn't illegal, so that's not where I went wrong. And so I'm driving down the street. They gone. They had to haul ass because they were nowhere in sight. So this happened just by luck. And again, I wouldn't suggest. I wouldn't do this again. I don't know what. I guess something got the best of me at that time, but I found them. They were they turned off into a gas station. They wasn't getting gas. They were just sitting there. So I guess he seen me or somebody seen me hit that U-turn. I don't know if they got nervous or clammed up or whatever the case may be, but I hopped out. So I pull up to her side, behind them, and I honked my horn. Not mean. I gave it just a little beep. Nothing. Didn't see no movement, no nothing in the car. And I'm like, I rolled on my window. I'm like, excuse me. And that's when I seen her hand flop out the window. So I'm like, okay, so she in there. So I hop out the car. She was quiet, peaceful. So I'm like, you ain't got to... I went over there, I said it nicely. I didn't say it with a raised voice or something. I was like, you ain't have to do all that. You said you got kids in the car. You didn't have to do all that. And she was like, well, you didn't have to come. And she was like, well, you didn't have to come. She talking calmly. A little bit calm, with an attitude, but calmly. Well, you didn't have to do all that. You could have asked me. And she was trying to direct it towards me like it was my fault. I'm like, ma'am, it's not my fault. It's y'all fault. Y'all were blocking traffic. And then we're having a little bit more of a conversation, just a little bit, more of a debate, not a conversation, but more of a peaceful debate. So my whole thing was just to see if they were gonna have that same energy. Dude comes out, do something. Well, man, I seen what you were doing, how you were talking. I was like, what do you mean you seen what I was doing and how I was talking? Number one, I didn't curse. Number two, I wasn't screaming. So what are you talking about? And then he's just gonna talk about, oh, well, even the cashier at the store, when you came into the store, was like, oh my God. Oh, number one, you're a customer, so she's gonna try to side with you anyways, and you look like a regular. Number two, she don't know what's going on. Number three, that's a whole damn lie. A whole damn lie. Because I didn't come screaming, I didn't come cursing. I'm asking the same question, what's going on? And I asked it in like 3 different ways. And I said, come on, y'all are blocking traffic. But regardless, I was like, you know what? I threw my hands up. Because he said it was my fault because I should never park like that. And I left it all. And as soon as he said that, I zipped my mouth. They were still, he hushed up because he was barely talking. And then when I started talking to him, she didn't stop. She stopped talking. So as soon as he said that, I was like, I nodded my head, I hopped in my car, and I took off. And the funny thing is, the same thing happened. They were getting ready to turn off. We get to a red light, because as soon as we pull out the gas station, there's a red light. So I'm going straight. They're turning. She was not all out the window. She was not yelling. She wasn't saying, F me, you effing faggot. Nothing like that. But moral of the story is, don't hop out trying to act all tough. And if you got kids in the car, be mindful and be respectful. I'm a heated person, and I was being mindful and respectful. I didn't know if there was kids in the car. I didn't know anything. But I'm glad I didn't go up there cursing and screaming. I didn't go up cursing. I didn't go up screaming. I didn't go knocking or touching anybody's car. I stayed a good distance away from the vehicle, about 2 feet from the vehicle. The first time, nothing like that. Again, don't be stupid. And if you're gonna be stupid, at least own up to it and correct it. Don't try to blame other people for your mistake. And again, you got kids around or kids in a car, don't be doing all that. Don't.